Hey folks, welcome back to another video. You join me on a almost sunny day here in Llanberis. It's brightening up. It's been a bit showery this morning. The slate is glistening over there in the sun now because it's all wet and shiny. It looks beautiful. Feeling a bit autumnal, so I've got the bigger jacket on today for the first time in a while. Today's video though is about this thing, the Rock Empire Twin. It's a Belay device, as you can see. Hopefully that's focusing on it. Pretty standard looking Belay device for trad kind of stuff. It's a guide mode device. I've been sent it by Beyond Hope, who import and distribute this stuff in the UK. And I've been using it for a couple of weeks now, not ages, but long enough to work out what it's all about. I thought I'd tie a bit of chat about this in with the complete guide to lowering in guide mode. I've done videos on various different methods before, but I thought it was worth doing one video with all the different ways, or at least most of the different ways. There's bound to be something that someone's seen that's a little bit different or whatever. So by the power of Premiere Pro and editing, you'll join me in a second having set something up ready to go through those things. Right, I've got a belay set up, pretty standard kind of 2-point belay, and got the Rock Empire Twin set up in guide mode. I'm also using these Blue Ice Mission slings lately. Nice and soft and quite shiny, so I find they come undone really easily under a lot of load. And people always ask me if these knots are easy to undo or whatever, because they'd rather do the lark's foot, the girth hitch. But I like the idea of having a shelf sometimes, and particularly in this situation, it becomes quite useful. I'm going to do these kind of in order of speed and thoroughness, I suppose, as a general rule. My climb has fallen off on this first one, and they just need lowering down a little bit, and I mean a little bit. Perhaps they just need lowering down half a metre to get their feet back on some footholds or something like that before carrying on. So I'm belaying them up, all right? They fall off. It's underweight, so I can't just give them some slack by pulling that back. I have to, do something fractionally harder. But it's not that hard, this one, but it is slow. I just pump that carabiner back and forth, back and forth, back and forth really quickly, and quite a lot, and it just pushes through millimetre by millimetre a bit of slack into this side, so it will lower them down. I've only got a rucksack hanging off, so it doesn't work super well, this one. It doesn't work that well when you've got an actual human being off it, but it does work. Slow. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, levering it through. If it works, great. If you're going anything more than a tiny, tiny bit though, you're going to need to do something a little bit more than that, all right? The next one is, get rid of those tangles, the one you'll see in the kind of instruction manuals and videos. So when I looked on the Rock Empire stuff to do a bit of research onto this one, they show this method. I'm just going to get myself a carabiner of any flavour. I've just got the one my Prussics on there, and I'm going to clip it, just squeeze that out of the way for the sake of clarity, into the little loops that they all have. These little loops are pretty small, they're hard to get a proper carabiner on. I always assume that's so that you can't load it sort of upside down in guide mode. I've got my catastrophe knot in there, and I can just crank that open. So what you can see as I crank it open, I'm just defeating that auto-blocking nature. So I can lower like that, and then when I want to stop lowering or control the speed, I just bring it back down, it goes back into that auto-blocking position. So this does its thing. I do get a little bit worried about that one. It is a bit on or off when there's a proper amount of weight on it, so it's really easy for them to suddenly go like super quick, and that's fine if you just let go of that, and you're controlling this one as well as that. But if you just let go of that, it goes back into that position and they'll stop. Everyone has a bit of a shock, but they stop. But it's similar with a gree-gree, that there's always stories of people, especially beginners when they're not used to it, lowering, going too fast and panicking a bit and pulling more on the handle instead of letting go of the handle of a gree-gree. They pull harder. And it's the same with that. If you just let go of that and it goes to there, grand. But if you panic and you push it even more, or don't do anything, it's going to keep slipping, isn't it? It might be an idea to do a catastrophe knot like further down the rope, just in case, before the climber would hit the floor or anything exciting. And you'll see that perhaps there's other things you can do as well to mitigate that, because I'm going to show you like set pieces like this but actually climbing is often not about set pieces, it's about getting little bits of each different type of thing and putting them together for that particular circumstance. So perhaps you can revisit that one and think of an extra thing you can do once you've watched the rest of the video. It's quick and it's easy, but it has its downsides. Let's get rid of it for now. Clip that back there. What I've got on my harness is what I would have by default, except for the gigajoule that I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I won't use that for any of the stuff that I'm going to do, because that would be cheating, wouldn't it? Chances are I'd have a little bit more, because I've just led up the pitch probably. So I've got, you know, perhaps some slings on alpine drawers, carabiners that have got nuts on them, cams on, and that kind of stuff. But I'm going to try and do it with what I've got on my harness and around my chest as well. The load strand direct. I like this next one. This next one works really well if the climber can unweight the rope. I've got my catastrophe knot in already, and I'm going to do one extra thing. I'm going to get myself a prusik, and I can get the prusik on now actually. I'm going to put the prusik on. I'm using this sterling hollow block because it's still on my harness, and I haven't, if you watched the last video I did, I was deciding whether to carry it or not, but I'm still a little bit undecided. But anyway, I put my wraps on, however many depends upon the you know, the rope prusik combo. So that's there. I'm going to clip that, getting rid of these little tangles, there we go. I'm going to clip that to my belay loop, do it up, not going to do anything else with it yet. I'm going to get myself any old carabiner. I can't use a screw gate because I haven't got any left, so a snap gate will be fine, and a snap gate is absolutely fine for this. Where you clip it depends a little bit on what's going on in terms of distances and stuff, but let's put it into the master point for now and it should work. Remember, my climber can unweight the rope in this case, right? They're on a ledge or a good set of holds or something, so I'm going to have to pull a bit hard because there's a rucksack on the end, like I said. But as we put the rope into the snap gate, right, what's happened here, and you can see, is it's defeated the auto blocking again. So this strand is coming out and round. So I can now get rid of the catastrophe knot. I could slide my prusik up a bit just to get it ready to go, and then I would have both hands on here and just lower away. I might need to push the rope through a little bit, there we go, because of it, like I say, being a rucksack on the end. But look, it's just going through. If I get hit by a rock or something, the prusik takes the strain and that just does its thing. Even though that's in a unblocked position, the prusik is doing the gripping. I don't like relying on prusiks, but you know, I wasn't expecting to get knocked unconscious or anything, so it's a backup. Load strand direct, nice way of doing it. Like I say, if you can unweight this rope. Let's change that back to where we were though. Get that squared away for a second. Not sure how far my rucksack is off the floor, but I'll bring it up a little bit. So far so good. Now, one thing I do like about this Rock Empire Twin is you can see the way it's twisting, sort of twisting away from the camera a little bit. Sometimes that might mean it's pressing against the rock or something. So it's unique on this one that actually you can clip it that way or that way. Other devices are one way only, so I'm actually going to change that slightly and have it like that. Is that the way I had? No, sorry, have it, I think this way will work even better. Through there. There we go. So if anything, it just faces the camera a bit better for this particular example, but you can see the idea of it. That's its unique feature really. If, I'll review it properly at the end, but if that's useful to you, it's useful to you. If it's not that exciting, then, you know, is what it is. But I quite like it actually as a nice to have, not a need to have, but a nice to have. My climber has fallen off again though. This time they're dangling in space. I've put my catastrophe knot back in because you know I like that, it means I can go hands free. I want to do that load strand direct again, but I've just told you you can't do it if you can't unweight this, but you can, it's just a little bit different. Sling. You've got choices of where to clip. As long as it's going above the belay device by a little chunk, then it's good. I quite like the shelf for this job often, so I can clip into there. I'm going to lark's foot, girth hitch, same thing, myself into this sling. I'm going to loop that into there, and I'm going to shorten it slightly actually, I think. Yeah, I'm going to shorten it slightly, just a little bit. Any old carabiner, I've got a screw gate, like I say, anything will do. That's going to clip into the climber's strand.
it is not doing anything. I might as well do it up because it's a screw gate, but it's not really a sort of safety critical point. It's not doing anything yet though, is it? I've got to give myself a bit of slack on my clove hitch to make sure I can unweight this belay device in a second, so I'm just pulling a bit extra through. What will happen as I lean back is that'll go into defeating the blocking mechanism sort of position. So what do I need to put here? Well, it's going to be a prusik, isn't it? So I've made a slight error there. We can all make errors, can't we? I really want that screw gate. Part of the tricky thing, not only with doing videos but doing it in real life, is trying to think that step ahead. So I got excited by seeing a screw gate, but actually I don't want to waste it, do I? So same again, French prusik auto block on the rope. Test the wraps if you need to. Just done that amount, so I know that'll be the right amount. Get rid of this catastrophe knot at this point and slide my prusik up in readiness. Now I'm gently, do that up, I'm gently leaning back some more, and you can see this carabiner is going up, 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 up. Keep going, keep going, keep going a bit more. There we go. That's into the defeater position. So now I can just feed that rope through, and again I'm having to pull the rucksack down a bit. I'd have both hands on here. That's going through nicely. If I get hit by that rock, the prusik does its thing, all is good with the world. You can lean back a bit more and you can sort of fine tune it as to where it needs to be. You can get the sort of the sweet spot. But a load strand direct with a loaded climber's rope, okay? Now this one leads quite nicely into like what I'd call the sort of the classic method for doing this, for releasing the guide plate. I've done videos on this, plenty of other people have done videos on this. It's a pretty good way of doing it. As I say, you've got loads of choices, so you've got to decide what's the right one in the right situation. I just like to get things sort of back to zero as I do these things. Try and keep it as clear as possible. I know that there's a lot going on in these sections when I do all this, so you know, use the rewind button, watch these bits again, all that kind of stuff, and even watch them on a big screen actually can help just see more going on rather than little phone screens that we normally watch stuff on, don't we? So this next one is kind of the classic method. You'll see this on loads of YouTube videos, including my own past ones, Instagram and all that kind of stuff. It's a nice belt and braces way of doing it. Climber's fallen off, needs lowering. Start as always with that catastrophe knot so I can go hands free. Good. I need to open up the belay device and I need to redirect the braking strand as well, okay? Doesn't really matter what order you do this in because we're not going to do anything weighting it and releasing yet, so you can just get on and go for it. Now, screw gate. I've only got one screw gate left. There's going to be a safety bit which is the prusik, so I can get that clip there out of the way so I don't get tempted to use it for anything else. First job for me could be using this sling. Get yourself a nice skinny sling. These Blue Ice ones work well, and I'm going to thread it through that release hole. That's what that's there for. Sometimes that's really easy, depends on the device and the sling that you're using. Sometimes it's a bit of a faff. That one went through pretty easy. And I'm going to lark's foot girth hitch, same thing, into that. Now I need to open that device up, so pull it up that way. So I'm actually going to clip it up to there and then bring it back down to me. This is just like a logistical thing, so I can put a snap gate up there, luckily, because that's all I've got left really. And that in a minute is going to clip to me, but it's a little bit long, so I'm just going to shorten it with one, just an overhand, only a little bit, and in a minute I think I'll clip into that loop. I can always change it if I need to, obviously. That can just dangle for the moment though. I'm also, what have I got left? I have got a couple of bits left. Long sling, I can just put that over my body or clip it to something or shove it down my top. I'm running out of carabiner. So another snap gate. Where I clip these doesn't matter too much. You might find that they're better clipped up to these bits of gear or whatever, but this sort of shelf works quite well, and I've clipped metal to metal there. That'll work nicely in this case. That carabiner is there for the braking strand of the rope, okay? So I can clip that up into there. That's ready to go in a moment. Now, there's a lot going on there, isn't there? So just to try and make it easy to see, I have redirected the brake strand up through there. I have redirected that sling up through there. Okay, so I'm getting closer to being ready to go, but not quite yet. The brake strand's going to need a backup. That's going to be a prusik. Remember, I've put that screw gate on my harness already, so I don't get tempted to put a snap gate in there by mistake or anything. However many wraps, as always, test it and soon find out. Okay, clipped in, done up. Is that locking? Yeah, nicely locking, good. I'm getting there. I need to clip into this next. Snap gate is fine for this job. Into the belay loop. If the distances work out and stuff, you might find sometimes it's better to stand into this rather than clip it to you. It just depends on the setup and the logistics. Just have an experiment. Right, I'm now ready to go. The idea being that when I lean back on this sling, I unblock the belay device and it opens up. If I didn't have this rope being redirected, the brake strand being redirected, the belay device wouldn't be doing anything, and I just have a carabiner basically having a rope running through it down to a prusik. Would that work? Yes, it would work. Is this better? Yes, I think it is. Let me sort of show you why I think so. Get rid of that catastrophe knot. I've got a hand on the brake strand the whole time now. And what I'm going to do is lean back, and remember, I've only got the rucksack, so it's not going to go flying through anyway. But as I lean back, look what happens to the device. It opens up. Okay, if I move that a little bit, the device is now sort of defeated from the auto blocking. If that was any closer, they wouldn't have that redirect. So you do have to experiment with this a bit. As long as it's got a kink in there, that's all good. There's some space for it to do what it needs to do. Remember, you could put it higher up though. And then all I do is I just feed the rope through, and remember, it won't go through because of the rucksack. There's so much friction here. Because the belay device is actually being a belay device, isn't it? You've got the brake strand going over the teeth. So as I shuffle it through, that's being a normal belay device providing friction, and the prusik is just there as a backup. It's the same when you're abseiling. The belay device is doing like the friction for the abseiling. The prusik is just a backup. It's the same idea. Whilst it's quite complicated, all the principles are pretty simple. The backup means that if I let go, get hit by a rock, all those kind of things that I say all the time, then it will grip, and the belay device is doing something useful, and we're all nice and safe. Remember, these distances you just have to have a play with and try them and experiment, and it won't be the same each time because all these things are in different places, aren't they? So you can just have a play with it. Okay, let's clear that up and go for the final one. Now that works. Bit of a faff. They're kind of all a bit of a faff. The general gist for me is that if I'm going to belay someone up a pitch, and I think there's a good chance I'll have to lower them, I won't use guide mode. It's as simple as that. I'll use an Italian hitch or a munter hitch. I'll use a gree-gree, depending on what I've been doing. I might have a rig with me as well, depends what I'm doing. But as much as these can be practiced and you can get quite slick at them, still some faff to be done, isn't there? So think ahead, often the way of climbing, isn't it? Now, the final one I want to show you is for the full length of the crag lower, a properly belt and braces way of doing it that I really like. I need to get rid of that rope being through the belay device though. Okay, so I've got my catastrophe knot in, standard. I need something to grip the rope here so I can get slack in there. This thing just seems desperate to move around, so I'm going to change it again. You think I might be making a point of how versatile this device is. I'm not really, it just keeps flipping moving. Right, there we go. Now, first job was the catastrophe knot. I've got that because I pulled some through. It's gone a bit far down, so I don't want it tight up here in case it gets jammed in, but I don't want it miles away either. There we go. Done. Next bit, I need my trusty prusik to do some gripping for me. Same prusik as we've been using all the time, the auto block. I'm going to use a snap gate for this, which may as well be that one. Doesn't need to be a screw gate. Move that up. What can I clip that into? Somewhere here ideally, just into that blue carabiner. Push it down so it's kind of ready to do its gripping job. It's not going to do anything yet. Next job. Tangled in the rope there. Next job. I've just told you I'm going to get rid of that belay device. I don't want just a prusik grip in it. That would be scary. String wrapped around slightly thicker string. I want something more solid. Munter hitch or Italian hitch. Just to give myself a bit of space, I might put that up on the shelf. If things are like clearer for me when I'm doing it, it's just easier to work with, isn't it? And sort of look that step ahead. I don't want to make it properly tight because I want to give myself some slack to work with here in a second, but I can adjust it anyway, can't I? I'm going to tie off that Italian hitch, that munter hitch, a slippery hitch, then a half hitch. Fully hands-free here. Now I just need to get some slack where the belay device is. Remember that pumping method that we used earlier? I can do that, and with a bit of encouragement as well, I can pull the rope through. Less encouragement when it's an actual human on the end. But, hey, look at that, slack. As I fall down the crag. Don't worry, it's not actually anywhere to fall. Get rid of that. Prussik's doing its thing. Prussik's doing its thing in this carabiner. So, because of the way I've done it here, I can't get this out of the way, and that's fine. I can just let it dangle, all right? So belay device is out of it entirely. What have I got up here? I've got the Italian hitch. So if I get rid of that catastrophe knot, there's some slack there, but the Italian hitch would catch them in a little bit. What I can do now, before releasing or anything else, still got my Prussic in place, is I can make sure I pull the right end. I can tighten the Italian hitch up. In a minute when I lower, that's going to flip through, so I'll flip it through on purpose and tighten it up by pulling it like that. There we go. Italian hitch in place. I could just lower on that, couldn't I? I could put a Prussic on there as well. Very much depends on your situation. There will be situations where I am happy to lower someone on a munter hitch, undoubtedly. There will be situations where I'm not happy. There's no auto-blocking nature to that, obviously. So I might put a Prussic on here. I've got another Prussic. I've always got at least two on me, so I could put a Prussic onto me. That's no problem. I've got spare screw gates and stuff as well. Some decisions to be made. If I wanted to do it, if there's doubt, there's no doubt. So where did I put those Prussics earlier? I kept them out of the way earlier by putting them in a pocket. So I've got my trusty Simmons ones. So if you think about it, how many seconds is this going to take me? Not many. Realistically, if I was going to do the Prussic, I'd have done it while the munter hitch was tied off, but I'm pretty happy I can hold on to a rope and do a Prussic as well, so it's not like the end of the world. Put that on, I can see it's gripping already, see how it deforms and stuff, so as I pull it, guaranteed to lock, it's good. Now, what I can do is get rid of this Prussic here. Because it was a releasable Prussic, an auto block, I can just push it, it releases, like getting attacked by a mayfly. Okay, that's released. I want to get it completely out of the way. Might just unclip one, let it dangle, done. And then I can lower my mate, or the rucksacks, hence me pushing it again, down, 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 down. Happy days. I get hit by a rock. This starts to go too fast because it's a soaking wet day or something like that, and it's a skinny-ish rope. Well, I can just manage it and get some extra friction from the Prussic. So like I said, with the Prussic, if there is doubt, there's no doubt. Put a Prussic in. Okay. Ooh, quite a lot there, wasn't there? Let me just come off this for a second. Few different methods, all with their pros and cons, generally relating to speed versus safety. I guess that would be a fair summarisation, wouldn't it? There's always options, but remember what I said, if I really think the likelihood of lowering someone is really high, I'm just not going to bother in the first place. The Rock Empire Twin though, the point of the video, you've seen its main benefit. It was the fact you can clip it different ways, all different 90-degree ways. I like it. It's not a necessity by any stretch of the imagination. It works on ropes, as it says here, from 7.8 to 10.5. I've used it from 8mm bang on up to about 9.8, 10 because they're a bit furry. I haven't used it on the fully chunky wool ropes, 10.5-ish. Actually, I found it nice to use. It's very pleasant. The guide mode is nice. I like that thing you can do with it. I like that that's a reasonable size. It's not ridiculously small. And I haven't found it grabby either. I find with some belay devices, they're like really grabby when you're trying to give out slack, especially on the chunky ropes. But this one's been all right, actually. Will this one stay on my harness in favour of the Gigajoule? No, it won't, right? The Gigajoule, I love the fact you've got the assisted mode on it. It's heavier. I'll insert the weight this now because I forget what it is, but I'll insert the weight on the screen now. This is lighter. Does the weight of this make any difference to my climbing? No, absolutely not. This will last longer. It's made of steel, but it's 60 quid retail, 60 pounds. Americans moan when I use slang they don't understand. 60 pounds. This is 40 pounds. 40 pounds is still quite expensive. The downside to everything, isn't it? It's quite a nice all-round device. I'd be happy using this, for sure I would be. If I went into the shop in a rush to buy a new Belay device because I'd left one at home or something, would I spend £40 on this over an ATC guide or a DMM pivot or a Petzl Reverso that are cheaper? Hey, I probably wouldn't, if I'm honest. And I do like to be honest, I don't see the point in these things otherwise, unless you really want this way of clipping it. And I do like that. It's a nice thing. I know I've been sort of non-committal there because it depends what it's worth to you, doesn't it? If you want another funky Belay device, yeah, it's a nice one to have. I like it. If you can pick one up in a sale, I think it's just as good as a pivot or a Reverso or an ATC guide. It's just a slightly different device to the Gigajoule, isn't it? But it's just as good as the other ones it's comparable to. But it's it would be the price point that would make me choose one over the other, really. That's what it boils down to. I hope the video's been interesting. I know there's a lot of stuff there. I dread to think how long this video will be. But remember, you can pause it, watch it in sections. I have done videos on probably all those bits in the past, but I thought it'd be worth doing just that one big, here's pretty much every method. There'll be other methods I haven't shown, but that's the general gist of it, really. Fire away questions in the comments below. You know I'm happy to answer as best I can. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few questions on this one. It's a fun one to do. I like these videos when they're challenging for me. Doing that in one take was quite a mission. Click the like button, smash the subscribe button, find us on Insta, find us on Facebook, that Threads thing that I occasionally use. All the support massively appreciated. The buy me a coffee link still blows my mind that people give me cold hard cash for doing these videos. It's amazing. Thank you so much. As always though, massive thanks for watching. More videos coming up very soon.